name is Aaron Johnson. I played professionally in rock bands for many years, and during that time I took up synthesizers and the art of synthesis. And the very first synthesizer I picked up was this one you see here. This is the MAXIKORG K3. It was built by Univox, and I bought it in 1975. And Univox was later taken over by Korg, if I'm not mistaken, and they may have had something to do with it because MAXIKORG is the name of this particular model. And it's a very versatile synthesizer, and I've seen videos of it on YouTube sparingly, but whenever they're just demonstrating it, they don't do the synthesizer justice. And this synthesizer is amazing. It can do very many things. Not only did I use it on recordings, but I used it in various other projects for sound effects and all sundry kinds of things. It's a very versatile instrument, and it can do a lot. I bought this instrument, like I said, in 1975. And so here in 2020, that makes this instrument 45 years old. And for all the old analog circuitry inside this thing, it still is holding up pretty well. I'm pretty surprised. Every now and then it fails and its pitch drifts on the portamento control. But overall, it's been a very dependable unit, and it's held up exceedingly well. And I thought in honor of its 45th anniversary that I would pull the thing out of mothballs and show it to the YouTube community. There's a kind of a synthesizer renaissance going on with the reissue of the ARP 2600 by Korg. And the ARP 2600, which is a synthesizer I've always loved, it's legendary, it has much in common with this synthesizer. They both share a kinship in sounds and approach and abilities, and I thought it was time to bring Max out, that we lovingly call him, and run him through his paces again and show him to you, the YouTube synthesizer enthusiast. And I hope you enjoy it. We're doing a song that I recorded back in 1986 called Blue Diamond Run, an ode to skiing. And it's a good one to show Max's capabilities on. I'm a little rusty on my keyboard playing. I've been playing mostly guitar the last 4 or 5 years. So you might hear me play some wrong notes here and there. But I will deconstruct the song and take it apart and let you hear various pieces and show you how they're done on the synthesizer. And then we'll go ahead and put the song together and let you hear it. I'll play along with the recording. Hopefully the recording will hide any bad notes that I have. But it's a great way to see what the synthesizer is doing, and it's a great performance synthesizer. When you were doing the art of synthesis back then, you had your hands pretty busy. One hand was running the controls for expression and effects, and the other hand was playing the keyboard. Unlike a lot of the synthesizers back in the 70s, this one is a 2-note capability keyboard, and it can generate 2 notes at one time. And so that came in really handy, as you'll see on this song. So let's get started. So Max is laid out pretty straightforward. It's a 2-note capability synthesizer, and so each note is controlled by an oscillator. And so we have the upper oscillator here, and the lower oscillator has the identical set of controls. And we'll just focus on the upper oscillator since they're both the same. This here is where you tune Max, and you can tune him to just about any pitch you want. It's pretty cool. And you can also tune the synthesizer to play fifths or thirds with one note. Alright, so here is a voltage control filter, and we'll work with oscillator number 1. And I've got it on a little brighter setting here. And here is a slow attack. And here is a percussive sustain. And you can add some sustain to that. And you can shorten it up, brighten it up, expand it. So you can add a lot of character to your notes. Or you can soften them up. So here is where the oscillators are primarily controlled. Each oscillator has a 6-octave capability, which is just spectacular. Here on the 2-foot setting, you can hit a high C that is just ear-piercing. And then down here you can hit a note that's so low you can hear the pulses of the frequency. And I've used both of those notes in my recordings over the years. The octave controller, you can go, that's a low note there. Up an octave, another octave, 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 octave. So the highest note is way up here, and here is the lowest note. You actually hear the pulse of the frequency that is generating that sound. So here's the waveform generator, and right now it's set on the flat sine wave, so it's going to be a flute type of sound. And here's a clarinet kind of sound from a saw wave. And this is the sine wave. Then we have a rectangle wave which generates like oboes. And then we have the chorus, which is a combination of all of the above. And then on the lower synthesizer oscillator, I'll bring that in now. I will bring in a second wave form that's different from the first. Now by bringing in both oscillators on chorus, or using the same setting on each one, you get a much fuller sound. And then as we lower the octave, it starts to get that traditional max buzzsaw sound. So let's take the lower oscillator and we'll put it on 16 foot, and we're going to mix in the octave below that. So we should have something even meaner sounding. Now we'll get rid of that high note, which is on this ring modulation here. We'll go up to 8 and mix in the octave beneath that. And we can get meaner by brightening it up and expanding it. So the ring modulator is one of the things that gives Max its very distinctive, unmistakable sound. So here it is without the ring modulation going on. I have the mixer off. So I add it, it starts getting that little buzzsaw kind of a sound. And it's most effective on the chorus setting. And so I bring in the second oscillator on the same setting. It's got more of a buzzsaw sound. It's starting to get big and full. So you use the 2-note capability to play fifths, and you end up with this. Alright, so here are the expressions, and here's just a straight note from oscillator number 1. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this here, and I'll activate the delay, and that delay will bring in this effect just a couple seconds after I hit the key. And on normal, that effect comes in right away. And then over here we have the portamento bend. We'll give it a nice slow attack and a long delay. Whereas if I do it here, it goes down. And then this is the portamento, and it works like this. Right now we've got a straight tone, and then here it is sliding. And here's a long slide. And I can do a long slide by running down the keys like this. Or I can do a fixed slide. I've got it on the ring modulator, so it sounds extra wicked. And I'm back to normal. So these things are pretty cool for adding a lot of expression, which you'll see as we put the song together. And then right here is the repeater. It's not a sequencer like what is in the ARP 2600. It just repeats a note at a given speed, and this is faster and slower, and you can put the pulse at the beginning or at the end or somewhere in the middle, and you just simply put it on hold and drop back on the percussion a little bit, and it'll sit there and just hold that note ding 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 like that. This setting here does it for the first oscillator. This is the second oscillator. This is both oscillators together. This one alternates between them. Max is also a stereo synthesizer, so you could have the signals bouncing back and forth between speakers. And then E only triggers the repeater when you put your finger on the key. And we'll start with oscillator 1. We put it on D to make them bounce back and forth between each other. And we'll do a hold. And we'll increase the speed. We'll take the ring modulation off. And we'll bring in oscillator number 2. Oscillator number 2 is the lower note. Some tone variation there. Here's the speed. The way the pulse is generated. Switch to white and pink noise. Of course, you can add music going with the white noise, which switches back to the note. Mix it in. Go back to music. Here is the volumes for each of the oscillators, and you can mix them in however you like. And I use this control quite a bit. You can see how aware I've had from it to mix the sound that I'm looking for that desired effect. And over here we have the key transpose. In this position, you play the notes as you would. This prioritizes to the first oscillator. It will generate the note before the second oscillator does, and this is vice versa for the second oscillator. And in this position, nothing will play unless you play 2 notes at once, so it might help you condition yourself to playing chords on a given song. I gotta say, this synthesizer has a massive amplifier in it. It has a lot of power, and it makes it one of the most dangerous synthesizers on the planet for blowing up speakers, and believe me, I've done it. So for Blue Diamond Run, the bass is also done by Max, and I use his trademark nasty bass sound, and it's something like this. And then we add a bunch of chords played on Arp Omni and a Moog Opus 3 to give a broad expansive sound, and then Max plays all of the leads. At the beginning of the piece you'll hear Max do some portamento slides. So the attack is slow to generate the note slowly, but it's held by some sustain, and then these here are activating these settings here for the portamento and the vibrato. And then you'll see me turn these off, and I'll go into playing the main lead. And then I will switch to the chorus sound, reduce the vibrato, then when I go to the chords I take the sustain off. You got to play it just right with these slight portamentos happening here. You can end up with some sour notes if you don't play the chords quite correctly and precisely. But when I play the chords, remember the middle note is not being generated. It's only the lower and the higher note. Anyway, this is all put together, and on this particular song, Max is doing most of everything that's going on that you hear. Alright, so you've got the basic elements. Let's put them all together and listen to Blue Diamond Run, and listen to Max do his thing.